I've been watching how it seems we forgot. Not us, I'm saying the church in general seems to have forgot. Remember, we were really heavy with not being able to get together as a churches in the nation. Big hits on the internet. When you did anything on the internet, there was a big crowd showed up. We had 190 something on the first video I did. Had less than 20 this week. And I'm not offended. The thought is, okay, God, we got this now. Everything's opened up. Everything's back to normal. Grieves me that people aren't still pursuing God. Because if we don't humble ourselves, as the word says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people will humble themselves. If we don't humble ourselves, it seems like it could be chaos or trouble that humbles us at some point. I mean, if we don't have God's hand on us and we expect God's hand and we stay under His hand, when He lifts His hand, we're on our own. And it's a pretty scary place to be. As a nation, as church, as families, we have to keep our focus on who He is and that He is priority in our life. See, right now, activities have started opening up. Now we can just do just about anything we want to do almost within reason. But it's like the priority of God has shifted way down. If I'm not too busy, then I might pursue God. I wonder about prayer life. What you see in public, you'll never do more in public than you do in private. So I wonder about prayer lives. I wonder about worship times with people in their own time. If all of that has lost something because we no longer need God like we did in the middle of the pandemic. It seems like I started on a negative note. I'm not. I'm just saying this is practical thoughts about where we are today as a nation and as a people of God. So today, let's set aside a time and say if there was one chair there and all of us were on the stage, is what it's supposed to look like. If God is God, then we came, this is His day, we say this is His day, we say we set this day aside for Him. So if that's the case, then He's the audience of one, and we are the ones on the stage, not performing, but sending our heart to Him in song and in words, and in everything we do today is for His benefit, not ours. But guess what? There's a boomerang effect to that. There's a boomerang effect. When we bless God, it says He inhabits the praises of His people. We can't wrap our brain around that, but somehow He becomes a part of what we're doing when we worship Him in spirit and in truth. What does that look like? Spirit and in truth. And so today, that's what we want to do, is set aside a time, and if you would just picture, in fact, I think we can put a chair there, and just think about it. What if He was sitting there and we were telling Him what we think about Him? Might look a little different, don't you think? Might be a little different. I would turn my head to blow my nose. I would do it in front of him. No, I mean, I would act different, wouldn't I? If He was in the room. Well, guess what? He's in the room. He's in the house. I can tell you, He's in the house. Oh, isn't that good? Isn't that? Heavenly Father, we thank You for the day. This is Your day. We've already recognized that You're in the midst of us. May we hear what we're to hear. May we say what we are to say. And may Your Spirit move on the hearts of people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I wanted to know what Juneteenth was. Anybody curious about what Juneteenth was? June 19, in 1865, General Gordon Granger landed at Galveston, Texas with the news that the Civil War was over, and that the enslaved were now free. Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the end of slavery in the United States. It was called Freedom Day also. I wondered why I had heard some people of color saying that. Is that okay to say it that way? Yeah. We're all got color. I'm a red man, especially when I stand out in the sun a lot. But I wondered why they called it Freedom Day and why they actually why people talked about that day being their Independence Day. It's because everything changed for them at that point. I got to thinking about, it's really strange how God opens up a different avenue of thinking. You know, they were taken from their homeland. Their fathers and the families were split. They were given different names. They left their culture and their customs. They came to a new country with new laws, new ways of doing everything. Must have been very awkward. Well, there were 4 guys. The Nebuchadnezzar said, go get me some wise kids, bring them here, we're going to train them in our ways and train them in the things that we want them to do. Almost exactly the same things that happened during slavery. Of course, these boys became slaves in Babylon. Babylon was located about 50 miles south of Baghdad, modern-day Baghdad. So that's where the location was of Babylon. These boys were between 13 and 14 years of age. Some say that Daniel may have been a little bit older than them. But Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, their names were changed to Belteshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were taken from their home. They were stolen from their people. They didn't have fathers to raise them. We live in a society that is much like this as far as fathers. A lot of them being absent. Can I get all the fathers to stand in the room? Can I get all the fathers just to stand? Now, how many of those fathers standing raised a child that was sired? I don't know I'm probably not the proper way of saying it. Maybe I'll go viral on that later. But how many raised a child that wasn't their own? Wow. All the same men. Except for me. I did have 67 boys in my home. I guess that would count. My wife doesn't look like she's gave birth to 67 kids. You may be seated. Now, I would like the mothers that had to do the job of the father and the mother to raise your children to stand please. Grandparents that are raising kids, any of those in the room? Helping with raising kids, great deal. Thank you, ladies. So happy Father's Day, Kelly. Now, these boys have been taken from Judah. Judah was 630 miles that way from where they wound up in Babylon. Daniel, I spoke of Daniel. He's not one of the 4, by the way. He's not one of the 4 guys that I'm talking about. Daniel kind of sets this story up because Daniel, in the 2nd chapter of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that troubled him greatly. In that dream, the head of the statue or head of a figure was gold. Then came silver below that. Then below that was bronze. Then below that was iron. Then below that was clay feet mixed with iron. And it really troubled him because it started shattering and coming apart and just falling down on the ground. And he told all his wise guys that they were to explain that dream to him so that he wouldn't be troubled by it, or so that he could make decisions needed based on that dream. And Daniel said, I can't interpret dreams, but my God can. And God interpreted that dream to mean that Nebuchadnezzar was the head of this region or this country. He was a strong head. He was gold. He was the firm figure of being over this kingdom that he had set up. And each kingdom below that became just a little weaker, just became a little different in everything they were doing. That's what Daniel told him. They said finally this whole kingdom would crumble because it was based on man's idea of kingdom rather than God. So when we pick up in Daniel 3, Nebuchadnezzar has started, Nebuchadnezzar, potato. Where did it? Just wait. He built this statue, and it was 90 foot tall and 9 foot wide. They found the base of it out in the desert. I couldn't find the picture of it, but they've got a picture of this big platform that they think that's where it was set in the middle of the desert to worship. He said, when you hear the noise, when you hear all the noise, you are to bow down to this figure and worship. Now, some say the figure was Nebuchadnezzar, and I tend to lean that way. If he had just seen a dream where he was the head of this thing, and he's a little puffed up anyway, so he probably made this image to look like himself. But they said it could have been Nebo. Not to be confused with Nemo. That was a fish. Picture of Jonah. Never mind. But some say it could have been Nebo, which was the god of wisdom, of learning, and also the god of vegetation. And so it could have been that god, but I don't think it was. I think it was Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 5 of Daniel 3. Let me see if I can pick that up quickly. Verse 5 says this. When you hear all that noise, when you hear all the instruments playing, you are to bow down and worship the golden image. And if it wasn't an image of King Nebuchadnezzar, he's basically saying, you worship me when you hear the noise. Get on your knees and bow to this image. Whoever does not do that, I will place into a burning, fiery furnace. Don't you find that curious that he said it that way? Burning, fiery furnace? I mean, if you told me you were going to throw me in a furnace, that's good enough for me to understand what you're fixing to throw me into. If you said you were going to throw me in the burning, I would kind of understand if you were going to fry me. Fiery, same thing. So why did he say it 3 times? To make a point. In fact, every time that him or his people are talking about it, they're talking about the burning fiery furnace. The burning fiery furnace. The burning fiery furnace. The burning fiery furnace. It just seemed odd to me that he went that way. Blah, blah, blah. In verse 12, we're told that Shad, Meshach, and Abed, I just shortened their names because it's a little bit easier to say it, refused to bow to this image and worship it. And so the people around them said, hey, the guys that you set up to be in charge of this whole region, which was Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you set them up to be the leaders in this country, and we in fact we have to obey some of the stuff they're telling us to do. And these guys that you said to do that aren't obeying what you told them to do. They're not valuing their need. You've got an attitude, a little bit of an attitude about that. So King Nebuchadnezzar comes up and he gets with Shad, Misha, and Abed. I should have just left the names alone. It's hard to remember the little short names. It is long. But he said, I'm going to give you another chance. I'll give you a second chance. How many people like second chances? Yeah, I'm going to give you a second chance. And here's the thing. Here's the deal that's going to happen. If, when you hear all the noise, I'm just going to clarify, when you hear all this music going on, you're to bow and worship the image that I have set up. But if you don't, flames from the what? Burning fiery furnace. We're going to consume you. And the boy said, we don't even have to think about this. We don't have to give any thought to this. Because we've already made up our minds. See, most of the time when we get into temptation settings, it's because we haven't already made up our mind that we yield to that temptation. It's the same as you just decide, if you decide beforehand what your character is going to be, what you're going to say yes to or no to, you don't have to give it any thought when the time comes. I remember that I kept telling myself, don't convince yourself that it's okay to do whatever you do. Because that's when I normally get in trouble, is when I talk myself into it. And then I try to talk myself out of it, because I'm in it, wanting to get out of it, and I'm in trouble most of the time. God whom we serve is able to deliver us, and He will deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. That's the only phrase you'll probably remember, burning fiery furnace. Burning fiery furnace. And from your hand. Now think about that. If you've got a puffed up leader who just got through telling you, when you hear the music, you bow to this thing that looks like me, or you worship the thing that I worship. If it was his image, it's really strange, isn't it? Saying, you worship, I worship myself, you need to worship me too. I've met those people too. But Daniel 3, verse 18. And by this time, these boys were about 18 years of age, so I thought that was neat with verse 18, where they explain themselves. So we got this attitude because there's only one that we worship. It is the God Most High. It is the Lord Most High. It is the only one that we worship and will worship. We will not bow our knee to anyone else. But even if God doesn't deliver us, even if God doesn't deliver us, it tells you that they had already made up their minds previously as to where their stand was and what even they were willing to pay for that. Even if He doesn't, know this, King, we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image that you have set up. That you have set up. Again, they're pointing right at the puffed up guy when they're saying that. He became furious. He became furious, and here's what he said. He said, commanded that they heat the fiery furnace, it would be the burning fiery furnace, in case you didn't really remember that, to heat the fiery furnace 7 times more hotter. Now his fury, his irritation actually cost him something at this point. Anybody got an idea what it was? He got angry, so angry that he heated the furnace 7 times hotter. Now, if you're going to punish somebody, would you want the furnace hot enough to where they died when they hit it? Probably not. You probably would have been a slow burn, as they say. Right? So it cost him. His anger actually cost him a satisfaction of really hurting somebody. the fiery furnace. Just get a picture of if you were glancing inside this. They said the furnace was possibly a large box that had double doors on the front, but it also had like a manhole cover, a manhole in the top, where they dropped more wood in to keep the fire burning. They think that they dropped the 3 Hebrew boys into that manhole when they dropped it in, but they had the gates or the doors open so that later they see inside this. 3 boys were bound, then thrown into the fire and fell down into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There it is again. Thrown down into the midst of it. So by saying thrown into, makes more sense if they were thrown into from the top, possibly. But there was a 4th man in the fire. Remember that story? There's the 4th guy. I gave you a little clue. It had a little cross on the front of it. The 3 musketeers with the 4th one. It was a little clue. Did you get the clue? Lexi got the clue. Well, she's a high school graduate now, so she's smarter than she was. She's smarter today than she was Friday because she graduated at Saturday. So now, look, said the king, we cast 3 men into this fire, burning fire furnace. But I see 4 men loose and walking around. They're just loose, and I love that term. They were just loose and walking around in the fire. But the 4th one looks as if it is the Son of God. It was. My deliverer is coming. My deliverer is here. Sir, my deliverer is coming. So happy Father's Day. Where does the Father's Day come into this? Where did the Father's Day come into this story? Do what? Yeah. Jane, I'm sorry. You forgot that we've got a microphone, but I'll do the Donahue thing.
Well, they didn't have any guidance, and so they had the father, the main father.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that 3 boys, teenage boys, that 3 teenage boys didn't buckle under extreme pressure and have that kind of character when they didn't have a dad to even teach them. Many in this room didn't have a dad that taught you true right from wrong.
How much easier would their life have been if they just died?
Yeah. You know, we don't hear any more stories about these 3 guys. God chose to put this in the Bible. He chose to put it right at this spot and tell us this story for a reason. Probably more than one reason. And I'll get into that in just a second. I didn't totally hear what you had to say. Why was the Father's Day?
Because the father watched over us.
Because it was the Father watching over us. The Father sent the Son. We heard that later on in John 3:16, didn't we? That it was God that sent the Son. He's all through the Old Testament, brother. So happy Father's Day. They actually yielded to the true Father. They actually had showed faithfulness to the true Father. When we go through fiery trials, we turn to God a lot of times. But if it was costing us everything, it might be harder for us to say, yes, I'll take the heat of my decision. So there were 3 boys raised without a father, had such high character that they would stand in the midst of that thought, in the midst of the fire, burning fire furnace. They were outstanding. Would you say outstanding? yes, they were outstanding, but no, they weren't outstanding in this. Yes, they were outstanding because they were mentioned in the Bible as what they did. They stood out from the crowd when they made their decision, when they proved God to be the God of faithfulness. They stood out, they were outstanding. But no, they didn't. They weren't outstanding in that not any one of them, they came as one voice. Not even one of them broke ranks with each other. Just an amazing story about three young men. And it's almost as if they just all said it in unison. I mean, you don't hear one of them say it and the other one say, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, it was like one voice that stood how they felt about what was taking place and what they were demanding to do. They said the Father is able to deliver. They said He will deliver. He's willing to deliver. And He was in the fire with us, is what they could say when they finished that song. Psalm 10:14 says, God, you see trouble of the afflicted. You consider their grief and you take it in hand. You are the helper of the fatherless. These boys were fatherless. Some of us in the room have been fatherless. Some of us have been raised ourselves, so to speak. And Psalm 68:5 says, God is the Father of the fatherless. The key is that those that desire Him to be the Father have to invite Him to be that and allow Him to be their Father. Allow Him to teach them right from wrong. Teach them how to be faithful by His faithfulness, by His goodness. He is a good, good Father. He's a loving Father. He's the pattern of fathers that we should follow after. I can say I wasn't always a godless father, godly father. I wasn't always a godly father. Wasn't always the man I should be for my family. But God makes the difference. The wife who stood her ground, the wife who I would hear crying in the middle of the night in the bathroom with the door shut. Not out loud. She was trying to be quiet. Crying for me to turn around and go the direction I need to go. We encourage each other. We can help each other to make the right choice. And I'm the man I am because of my parents' influence, my siblings' influence, and my wife's influence. My wife knows me better than anybody, and she loves me. I can sing that song just as I am, without one plea. But she has threatened me with love. No, she's a sweet lady. Happy Father's Day. And you had to straighten me out a few times. God says this, I will be a father to you. And you shall be my son and my daughter, says the Lord Almighty. So out of this story, if the story is important enough that God would put it in the Bible, it's a fairly short passage that they're in. But if the story is that important, then what all can I get out of this? Okay? One is that you're not set to be the father that was in your life. You don't have to be another one of those. You can actually look to God as being the Father and turn your life out, make it turn out differently by that decision. So these guys without a father were, in fact, their customs and everything tried to get them to change everywhere they went. But they stayed true to what they knew to be right because of God's influence in their life. Another thing you can take out of this is the goodness of the Father. His provision in sending Jesus to deliver from the fiery furnace. He is in the middle of that fire with you even now. He's with you now, even in whatever distress may be going on in your life. Think about how the Father sent the Son to deliver us from that.
He didn't wait till they were done in the fire and congratulate them about making a stand. While they were making a stand, he was with them.
Right. Yeah, he could have delivered them before they ever went to the fire. Right? See, the story of Daniel being the other young man that was along with these three in their captivity, his story really takes place after this. Talking about Daniel and the lion's den, it kind of comes after this. Daniel's not in this story. So he's somewhere else. Or, I posit this. That's my college word. I posit this. What if he was there and he yielded and said, I'll just do it? Could have been. We don't hear that story. It could have been. Or he could have been doing business for the king somewhere else. But his story doesn't take place till later. There's a lot to think about in this story. But how is God talking to you personally? How is God speaking to you? I've failed as a father many times. Failed as a man of God many times. I can take courage from this. I can take encouragement from this story, for my own self. If I'm Daniel in this story, if I was the one that said, yielded to temptation, if he did, I have a story to tell that will come later because of my actions from that point forward. It could have been that Daniel saw the three boys and what they had done and was encouraged to be more of a man himself. We don't know. But we have that opportunity to take that and use that for our benefit. Or we can also look at the Father God and what he is for our life. So which is it for you? Is there a place in there where you are thinking about his position, God's position in your life? How much priority have you put on God? How much of a man or a woman of God have you been? Think about the failings, but then think about the mercies of God and how I can dust myself off, get up and do it again. And he'll be there with me to walk through that. Any final thoughts?
I would kind of look at, these boys were early teenagers when they were taken from their homes. And then about 4 years later, they're thrown into this furnace. Stand their ground, particularly God. I would say that the teaching that these boys had in their younger years, when push came to shove, that rose to the top in their hearts and minds. So I would with that, I say that if you're teaching your kids right about God, place in our lives and everything, it's not in vain, even if it might look that way sometimes.
And even if that training is interrupted by them being moved away to another setting. Excellent. So the foundation could have been the foundation they got at home before they were stolen away. That's how important it is for us to do what we've done. But some of us haven't done it very well. God's mercy and can forgive us for that. Like I've said before, I took both my daughters out to the garage right as they were graduating, each one of them, and told them, I pray to God you don't go look for a man to fill in the pieces of the puzzle that I failed to give you. forgive me for the wrong ways I've done my job with you. Just let it go, because you have an opportunity of being a better person than I am. You can grow from what I have done and become better.